There is a moment many people experience at some point in their lives, even if they never talk about it. It does not arrive with drama. There is no argument, no breakup, no obvious crisis. It arrives quietly, usually at night, when the house is still and there is nothing left to distract you. It is the moment when you realize that being alone feels heavier than staying with people who slowly drain you. For most people, this fear does not begin as loneliness. It begins as discomfort, a quiet evening, a phone that does not light up, a weekend with no plans. At first, it feels harmless, but the longer the silence lasts, the louder the mind becomes. Thoughts appear that were pushed away for years. Old doubts resurface. Questions you never answered start demanding attention. And suddenly, the emptiness feels unbearable. So you reach outward. You text people you do not truly connect with. You stay in conversations that leave you feeling smaller. You keep relationships alive that no longer reflect who you are. Not because they bring joy, but because they fill space. Because noise feels safer than silence. Being with the wrong people often feels less frightening than being alone with your own thoughts. This is where many people get trapped without realizing it. They tell themselves they are choosing connection. They believe they are being loyal, patient, understanding. But underneath those justifications is something else entirely. They are choosing distraction. They are choosing familiarity. They are choosing comfort over truth. From childhood, most people are conditioned this way. In families, approval feels like safety. In school, fitting in becomes survival. Being chosen feels like success. Being alone feels like failure. These ideas are rarely questioned. They settle into the subconscious and quietly shape decisions for decades. No one teaches you how to be alone without feeling broken. So as adults, many people carry this fear into relationships, friendships, workplaces, and social circles. They stay where they are tolerated instead of valued. They stay where they are needed instead of loved. They stay where they feel unseen but not abandoned, because abandonment feels worse. Over time, this pattern becomes normal. It does not feel dramatic. It feels practical. It sounds reasonable. At least someone is there. At least you are not alone. At least this is better than nothing. And so people stay. They stay in relationships where they slowly lose themselves. They stay in friendships where they feel invisible. They stay in environments that suppress their growth. Not because they are weak, but because the fear of emptiness feels stronger than the pain of compromise. Being alone removes distractions. When no one is there, you are left with yourself. And for many people, that is the most uncomfortable place to be. When you are alone, you can no longer perform. You cannot adjust your personality to match expectations. You cannot hide behind roles or responsibilities. You hear your own inner voice clearly, and for many, that voice has been ignored for years. It asks questions you avoided. Who am I without these people? What do I actually want? Why do I feel lonely even when surrounded by others? Why do I feel exhausted by connection instead of nourished by it? These questions do not have immediate answers. And because they do not, people avoid them. They fill their lives with company, noise, routines, and obligations. Anything to prevent silence from becoming too loud. But there is a cost to this avoidance. Staying with the wrong people creates a deeper loneliness than being alone ever could. Because now you are alone while being seen, alone while being touched, alone while being spoken to but not understood. This kind of loneliness does not fade when someone enters the room. It deepens. It teaches you to abandon parts of yourself in exchange for belonging. To silence needs, to accept discomfort as normal, to believe that wanting more is asking too much. Slowly, the inner world shrinks. You stop expressing what matters. You stop listening to your intuition. You stop trusting your own feelings. Over time, this disconnection becomes familiar, and familiarity feels safe, even when it hurts. The fear of being alone is rarely about solitude itself. It is about what solitude reveals. It reveals unmet needs, unhealed wounds, old grief, forgotten dreams. It reveals the gap between the life you are living and the life you feel inside. This is why solitude feels threatening. Spiritual teachers have spoken about this moment for centuries. Eckhart Tolle explains that much of human suffering comes from resisting the present moment. When you resist being alone, you resist what is. You resist yourself as you are, without validation, without mirrors, without roles. But presence does not punish you. It exposes you gently. When you stop running from being alone, something unexpected happens. The silence does not become louder, it becomes clearer. The mind slows down, the urgency fades, and what remains is not emptiness, but space. Space to breathe, space to feel, space to reconnect with yourself without interference. Being alone begins to feel less like abandonment and more like honesty. You begin to notice how much energy was spent maintaining connections that no longer aligned with you. How often you silenced yourself to keep peace. How frequently you ignored discomfort to avoid confrontation. Solitude shows you what no relationship ever could. It shows you who you are when no one is watching. This does not mean isolation is the goal. Humans need connection. But there's a difference between connection and attachment, between presence and dependency, between love and fear. True connection does not require self-erasure. It does not demand constant compromise. It does not leave you feeling empty afterward. When you learn to be alone without feeling incomplete, something shifts. You stop chasing people to fill space. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you. You stop confusing attention with love. You become selective, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. The fear begins to dissolve, not because someone enters your life, but because you no longer believe your worth depends on someone being there. You realize that aloneness is not a verdict. It is a phase, a mirror, a teacher. And slowly, the question changes. It is no longer, why am I alone? It becomes, why did I stay where I was not seen? Being alone may feel uncomfortable at first, but being with the wrong people quietly erodes your sense of self over time. One leads to awareness, the other leads to numbness. Solitude invites you inward. Wrong connections pull you away from yourself. And in the end, It all comes down to one simple question: what's behind it all?